Hello and welcome to another World of Warplanes video with me, Sir Death. Continuing my recent theme of reviewing the Tier 4 fighters, today we're looking at one of the two Japanese ones, the Mitsubishi A6M1 Zero, and as ever, having a chat about its strengths, its weaknesses, what it does well, what it doesn't do so well. I have in the last few days looked at the Bristol Type 146 and the I-17 and the P-36 Hawk, and it's the turn today of Japan and one of their two offerings, this plane. So we're going to just jump into some gameplay here and we're going to have a chat about this plane and see how we go and how we get on. So the plane then, well, when you get it in stock configuration it has 130 hit points, which is a little bit on the low side. When you upgrade the airframe, that increases slightly to 140. That's still a little bit lower than either the Type 146 or the P-36 Hawk. It's a little bit lower than those, but that's because this is a more manoeuvrable plane, or at least it's certainly more manoeuvrable than the American offering anyway. Manoeuvrability rating, again, out of the box is 92, very nice. When upgraded, 94, even better. So it's a very, very nippy plane. It turns around on a sixpence very, very easily. And we'll see some of that in this gameplay here. It can turn in 8 seconds when it's out of the box, and that can be brought right down to 7.9. The 7.9 turn is really, really nice. So you can see just an example here how I've just spun around, got straight onto the case of this defence aircraft, and having to work a bit harder to catch up with him. Even though he's turning a little bit, I'm just going to work with him. Now, you see one of the guns is overheating. That's because we're going to have a chat about the guns in just a moment, but it's got a bit of a mixed bag of guns on this plane. It comes even as stock with two 7.7mm guns and two 20mm guns. The two 20s can be upgraded to a higher specification at the cost of 2,750 experience, but the ones that you get as standard are good enough to do a decent job, and you'll see some examples of that as we go on. This is a low-level fighter. Its suggested fighting area is around the 600 metre mark. I'm flying a bit above that at the moment, but it's certainly not one for chasing bombers and getting right up there into the upper 1500 to 2000. It shouldn't really be played at that sort of height because its optimum height is around 600. It has a fairly standard speed in the sense that when not boosting it goes along a little over 300 kilometers per hour, which is reasonable. Has a 6-second boost. That's fairly standard for most fighters at this sort of tier. And it has, what's very nice about it is its stall speed is very low. It's only 90 kilometers an hour. What that means, for those that don't know, is it means when you're in a climb like I am right now, you see the speed's dropping and dropping and dropping. The lower your stall speed is, the lower your speed can get before the engine will stall. Now that might be stating the obvious, but what it basically means is you can keep climbing, and as long as you stay above 90, the plane's not going to twist and turn and drop out of the sky. So how are we doing in this game so far? Let's have a look and see what happened here. We're just busy chasing down this multi-role fighter here who's just whizzed past us and get him finished off. Now we're just almost at the 1000 combat points. Certainly not a stunningly good start to the game. The team are starting to take control, but I personally haven't done a huge amount. Just trying to do a little bit of work here and help out a teammate. I love examples of play like this where you get an enemy plane who's already on the tail of one of ours, so he's very much focusing, and therefore he's not thinking about what's behind him. By the time he realises there's something behind him, you can have done an awful lot of damage to him. Just as well, there's not such a thing as friendly fire in this game, because you get people like that fly right in front of you, then I would have put some shots into him. So we've just hit the 2000 combat points mark there now, and we're doing alright. In terms of how the plane feels, well, it feels alright. It's not a bad one to play. When I've reviewed the planes over the last few days, I've found some subtle differences. You tend to find that the best all-rounder, considered by most people, tends to be the UK one, the Bristol Type 146. I personally found that the I-17 was a nice plane to play. I was very shocked and surprised by the P-36 Hawk. I thought it was going to be a sluggish plane. I thought it would be awkward to play, but it still managed admirably. And in fact, I produced a very high score on that P-36 video, which I'll put a link to in this one. I think it was 14,000 combat points thereabouts in that one, a whole string of medals, well worth watching. But yeah, it feels alright. I quite like how this is playing. It's the problem you have with the Japanese planes, generally speaking, is they are so manoeuvrable because they're so light, and it means they're very much lacking in any kind of armour, so you take damage very easily. They have a low number of hit points. I'm climbing up here towards this guy up here, which is I'm going to hope of getting to in a million years, but I'm actually just gaining some altitude while heading up towards the next sort of reasonable target. The one problem is when you've got down to a very low altitude, if there's nothing there to fight, you've got to go looking for it. And if you've got a plane like this, it can be hard to get back into the combat again. So I'm having to work quite hard to get anywhere near anything happening. I'm not actually realistically expecting to try and catch this bomber, in case you think that's what my aim is. I'm more just trying to climb and get some altitude. I'm up to the 800 meters or so now, and then hopefully we'll get, like we have here, we've got some other targets coming in that are more sort of my height, and I can work on these guys. Oh, we've got somebody coming straight towards me, so I'm trying to bang out of his way, but I haven't judged it well enough. Been shot down by my alter ego, another A6M1 playing for the other team. So I haven't done particularly well so far, 3,000 combat points. It's an okay game, it's not stunningly good, but it is showing off what the plane can do. Some of you are probably wondering then, which of these tier 4s is the best to play? It's hard to answer that because it very much depends on what you like doing best. I haven't found any of them so far that I've reviewed to be a bad plane yet. The only one which I have struggled to really enjoy playing is one of the German ones, the HE112. Now I haven't done a video review of that yet. I will produce one over the next few days. But when I've played that, I found it to be not as pleasant as the other ones. I quite like this one. This is okay. Probably not my favourite one. I probably have preferred most of all either the British, the Bristol 146, or the Russian I-17, or the American P-36 Hawk. But the P-36 Hawk plays a little bit differently because it's a bit more slower moving, but has a bit more armour. So it's a bit more mature. If you want to stay in a fight a bit longer, the P-36 might be the one for you, but it means if you get somebody on your tail, you can't shrug them off as easily. I got very fortunate in that game and didn't really get anybody chasing me down. Just past the 4,000 combat points mark, it's turning into an okay game. Not amazing, not terrible. See how it goes. As a team, we're doing pretty well. We're about 2/3. There's the Class 5 fighter, which is, to be fair, pretty easy to get a Class 5. I'm going to try very hard to do that. It's a lot more meaningful if you get sort of up to around Class 2 or Class 1. There's Grade 4 though, I got that pretty quickly then. I've taken some damage there, so I'm just trying to stay alive now because there's the squall line marker coming down, saying that if you die, well, if you die now you'd be alright, you'd respawn again, but once the squall line has come down in another 33 seconds, after that you're out of there. I'm just trying to finish off this guy. Can I get another kill? He's making hard work of it, twisting and turning. My guns are overheated. I should have probably let them cool off a bit more there. And he's just ducked underneath me now. What a pest. Come back here. Come back and be shot down. There you go. Got him, but I've taken a bit more damage from somebody else. 6,000 combat points. I've got a heavy fighter up here. And again, I've taken a bit more damage. Because there's a lot of activity going on here. Squall line's down now, and I'm probably going to be out of this game pretty soon. So I'll try and stay alive, but I don't have much hope of staying alive very long. If somebody's on my case, oh, I'm out of there. That's me done. I'm going to have to cut at the end of the game now because I can't respawn, and there's no point in watching other people fly around. It ended up being a victory. A little shy of 7,500. Flying Star's a standard award. So is Hat-Trick. These are all fairly easy to get. So supporting fire, all nice and easy, and effective fire. And Subjugator, all very standard awards. Class 4 fighters, okay. Finished first in the team, which is a bit of a surprise because I didn't think it was a great game. In terms of how it looks back in the hangar there's my little collection of medals, which are all quite easy to get. And how do we do cash wise? We pulled in 54,000, which is alright, but there is a couple of events running there as well now. I was just checking here to see what these different events were when I was hovering over them. So yeah, finished first over there. It's not a stunningly good replay. It just shows what the plane can do. Do I like the A6M1? Yeah, it's quite a nice plane. Probably, in my personal opinion, not quite as good as the 146 or the P-36 Hawk or the I-17, but it's playable. It's quite good fun. I will be reviewing the other Japanese one in the next few days as well, the KI-43 Mark 1. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers. Goodbye.